Hi, everyone. This is the weekly briefing from Cloak and Dagger. We've got Albert Marco and myself, Tony Nash. This week, we're looking into a few really key things. The first is the Epstein miscalculation. Conspiracy theories aside, there's some political reality to that discussion. And Albert and I have been pretty vocal about it posting, and we posted a piece about it last week. We'll get into that in detail and kind of the harm that's happened there. We'll also talk about Bessent and the dual role that's been floated about him heading the Fed and the Treasury, and kind of that's fairly problematic. And then we're going to talk about these tariff letters and kind of how they fit into overall kind of strategy and world trade and other things. So, Albert, thank you for taking the time. It's
Yep.
awesome always to have this discussion. So, I want to talk about this Epstein thing that came out a week ago and the fallout that's happened once the announcement was made. Hey, there's nothing to see here. I immediately click. Like I just knew that it wasn't going to sit well with a huge part of the kind of the MAGA base, right? And you've mentioned this before that building that MAGA base, it really is a coalition. It's not a party. And so people who say, we only have two parties in the US, yes, but there are coalitions built within parties. And working class and a bunch of different people have come into the Republican Party to support Trump, which is great. And there's a portion of that coalition that really wanted to make sure that this Epstein stuff was released. And when it happened, immediately you and I were chatting, talking about it, and you were the first one who said this is really going to hurt Trump. So walk us through this.
Well, Trump can't, for years. How long has it been? Like 8 years almost, right? Not just, from the Weinstein time and the Pizzagate story, and then, this Epstein story. It's been years since the Republicans, specifically Trump, has touted this list as this end all be all. We're going to get you finally, pedophile rings, uh, move by Trump to gain favor with the conservatives. And you can't sit there and spin up the base multiple times, right? We're going to release it. We're going to release it. Oh, Bill Clinton's got a problem. He's on
It's
that
on my
list.
desk.
It's on my desk, and Pam Bondi is going to review and release it, and blah blah blah. And then you come out and say there's no list. It was a hoax by Biden.
Right.
Why can't you believe it's by Biden?
Even
Biden.
Kash Patel, this guy was gunslinging, tough talking guy, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then he's dialed back on this, which is to me pretty unbelievable. Again, I don't know how much I believe of it, but just to see how vocal these guys were about it, and then how much they completely peeled back from it.
You cannot do what Trump did and then kill it the way he did and expect that everyone's going to be okay with it, right?
Why are you still talking about it?
You can't have that much hubris to believe
Right,
that MAGA is going to follow you blindly and believe every word you say just because you say it,
right.
right? There's ways to say, hey, there's a list, sort of. We don't know who's innocent, who's not, because surely there's going to be people that were just on the island had no idea what's going on, right? That's just
Yeah.
surely, right? And on the flip side, you had people that knew exactly what was going on and whatnot. I mean, this sounds like big money guys got involved and said, just kill the damn thing.
Right.
We'll give you this, that, and the other, and just kill it. And that's what Trump did. And now the way he's handling it is so abhorrent and such a big political miscalculation that he's got, Bongino, whatever, however you say his name is, asking to quit and saying that Pam Bondi has to get fired. Well, Pam Bondi's political career is over after this. She's never going to get a GOP seat again. There's just no way.
After this,
After this.
after this Epstein event, or after
Yeah.
her? Okay.
No, after this Epstein event, she's done.
Okay.
As being able to run for office. There's just no
Okay.
way. This is always going to haunt her now.
Okay. Well,
Right.
yeah. I mean, I saw the video of her. What was it? 3 months ago when she said it's on my desk, and she was very confident and very seemingly really. It was really interesting. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I hear all sorts of people talk about this Epstein thing. Again, I don't know all the details and the names of people and everything else, but I thought, wow, that's really interesting. I don't know why they would lead it up, with those type of statements and then announce nothing's there. And I just think even if they wanted to kill it, they could have done it in a different way. They could have easily, you and I could come up with ways for them to kill it, but keep people engaged and all that stuff, right?
Well, I mean, if there's no list and there's nothing that's gone on or anything like that, why is Giselle Maxine in prison, and why was it?
Right.
Why was Epstein arrested?
Right.
How,
Yeah,
how do you marry those two things?
you can't.
You know, no, you
Yeah.
can't. How do you can't marry those things? I mean, this is like one way or the not. Either there's some sort of list, or there isn't. Right?
Right.
You can't say it's a hoax, because then why are people in prison?
Right. Exactly. And why was Epstein in prison in the
Yeah,
first place
why
if
was
there
he in
was
prison?
nothing wrong? Yeah. So the thing that I think is the starkest is, there were a lot of people in their 20s who came out for Trump
Yeah.
and who were very vocal about Trump. And once this happened, my kids are in their 20s and I hear a lot of their friends talking and stuff. And once this happened, the first thing I thought of was, wow, they're going to lose so many voters in their 20s. The youth vote for the Republicans is effectively gone, except for like the frat boys or whatever with TPUSA that are going to show up no matter what. But
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
but
Um,
is that right? The youth vote being gone?
oh yeah, I mean, it's not just the youth vote. It's pretty much all like the center right, and even some of the hardcore Christians that were like, believing this whole global pedophile ring. Whether it's a conspiracy or not, I have no idea. I have no skin in that game. But I'm just saying, it's like all those people are fuming. I mean,
Yep.
Charlie Kirk is, he was at a conference, and the whole crowd was all riled up about it still. And that was just like, this weekend.
A few days ago. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So it's just like, it's not going away. It's completely miscalculated. It's going to be a topic for a while now. And
Yeah.
it's pretty bad, because it's pretty bad when like the Trump grifters come out of the woodwork and start defending it, defending, Trump, and everything's going to be okay. Don't worry about it.
Right.
Trump, well, it's like, yeah, well, you're worried because your your grifting train is looking like it's going to end.
Right. Well, the thing that really bothers me about it over the past week with kind of the Trump guys saying you shouldn't question Trump or whatever, and Trump saying, why are you still talking about this? That is as bad on the right
Hmm.
as the left was during COVID in terms of you can't say certain things about COVID, right? Or other things that the left was censoring about. So this is right censorship when you can't question Trump, when you can't question the Epstein stuff, when you can't question certain things. You should always have vibrant discussion of the policies that are under consideration or have been released or whatever, right? Big beautiful bill. We did have a lot of discussion about this Epstein
Hmm.
thing. There should be a lot of discussion about this. If there is nothing to the Epstein thing, then release the evidence, just like they released the dossier on Trump, in his first term or whatever, right? That's the question that I have is if there really is nothing there, then why can't you release the stuff that the DOJ already has?
Yeah, it's like I said, it's not going to go away. It's just going to get worse and worse until they address it in some kind of like fashion or manner or whatnot. I mean, it's just the way it is,
At
right?
this point, there has to be a scapegoat, right? Like they've gone too far for this. Just if they're going to fix it, somebody has to be a scapegoat. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, normally, yeah, but I don't know who's on this supposed list and who you scapegoat. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I just don't know what they're thinking, or what. I don't think they thought, two steps ahead here.
Yeah. I think you're
So
right. And 2026 gone for the Republicans, do you think?
I think they lose the House.
You think they lose the House?
Yeah,
Okay.
for
Yeah,
sure.
that's fair. I th
Yeah,
I
I think
think
they lose the House.
at this point, I mean, 2 weeks ago, I would have said, I'm not so sure, but after this, I think people are just going to stay home.
It's not,
And
it's a compounding problem, right? You have this, plus you have the economy is faltering, right? Plus you have unemployment that's slightly ticking up, right? And then you might have inflation, surge again, not a surge, go up, right? Uh, those are headwinds that don't look pretty for the GOP,
right.
So it's like why do you keep adding issues?
Yeah,
And
exactly. Yeah, I think you're right. I think that from here on out, they have a very difficult path. Again, unless, let's say they said, oh, Kash Patel did a really bad investigation on this, so he's got to go, or Pam Bondi has to go, or something like that. If someone is scapegoated and all the blame goes on them, then I think there's a path back. If there isn't, then I think it's tough. I think there are individual seats where if Congress people stand up and say there has to be an investigation of this, I think those people will get the turnout, maybe. But otherwise, again, I think those guys in their 20s, I think the working class voter, those sorts of things, generally, it's going to be really hard to get them out.
the problem Trump has and the GOP understands is that Trump can't be reelected. He's not up for
Yep.
reelection. So at some point, Trump becomes the boogeyman even for the GOP, right? So
Yep.
any kind of mistakes he makes, the GOP are going to pounce and say, "Yeah, we're not with him," or "This is wrong," and they'll start following the next possible candidate.
Yeah. December of 26 is when it happens. I mean,
Yeah, I mean those that's
inevitably,
when
right?
that's when names start coming out,
Yep.
for sure. I mean you're gonna see names starting in November,
Yep.
coming out like, who gave up their Senate seat, who's possibly gonna give up a Senate seat for a run, so on and so forth. And they're gonna nitpick everything that Trump did incorrectly and
Yep.
try to, gain advantage.
Yep. And this Epstein thing also doesn't bode well for Vance, right? I mean, I think his chances for 28 at least start to come into question.
Oh yeah, well, without a doubt. I mean, you can't be as vocal as Vance has been, and then turn around and say, yeah, it's opposite of what I've been saying.
Right.
That's not the portrayal he gave to the GOP voters. He was supposed to be a straight shooter, no nonsense, this and that, and now he's embroiled in nonsense.
Right. Yep.
And defending nonsense.
Yeah. I just want to be clear to everybody. Like Albert and I are not Epstein fanatics. We're just acknowledging the political reality on the ground
Yeah,
and the sentiment change.
yeah. I'm not debating a list or no list or what happened there or not happened there. That's neither here or there at the moment. I'm just simply talking about political miscalculations of
Yep.
how this has been handled.
Yep. Yep. Okay, let's move on to Scott Bessent, the dual role, Fed and Treasury. There's the Bessent and Trump and other people are really trying to push that Powell isn't good anymore, and they want him out. And Bessent is a known person to Trump. Bessent has really supported Trump through thick and thin, at least over the past 5 months or whatever. And so I think Trump trusts him, but can he take both roles?
No.
Okay.
I mean, legally, it's a gray area, right? That's really for a legal scholar, for a constitutional scholar, to answer. But the reality is Congress would never confirm that. There's no way. I mean, they'd have a field day, and on top of that, that has to be like the candidates have to be announced sometime in like September, October of this year, right? Because it's going to take a while to prepare them for the Senate confirmation, right? So if Scott Bessent is going to be the guy, they need to have an appointed, someone else for Treasury Secretary in that time frame.
Right. So
You know,
aside from you and me, who is in the running to chair the Fed?
I think Haslett has to be up
Yeah,
there.
I think you're
Yeah,
right.
I
Yeah.
think Warsh is out. He has been out. He had an interview with Trump and it went horribly wrong.
Really?
Yeah, Bessent and Trump had went just to town on the guy, and I think that Warsh is correct and Bessent and Trump are wrong.
Mm.
I think at this point Trump is being misled by people. I know you say, he trusts Bessent. You should not trust Bessent. I don't trust the guy. I never liked him from day one. I don't think he should be there, but that's just, my opinion.
Interesting. Okay. Well, we'll keep an eye on Hassett. And then let's talk about these tariff letters. So we've started to see these things go out, and we hear that August 1st or whatever is the deadline for stuff. And then today, Trump makes a statement that August 1st might not be the deadline. And it's like, okay, after a while, like I believe in the overarching strategy of what they're trying to do. World trade has to be restructured.
They don't
But
give a shit about that, Tony.
yeah,
They don't care. No,
yeah, I
this
mean,
this this tariff, that's a good argument of why they're doing it.
Yeah.
right? Politically, but the reality is they're using tariffs for government revenue, right?
Oh yeah.
That's what they're because there's no tax base. That's the problem. The money's been running dry, and they need to fund the government. The best way to fund the government is through this tariff revenue scheme, and you can see that because they had a surplus in the treasury,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
But those things are a little bit dicey. I think I wrote about it actually. They're a little dicey. Like you start getting over $500 billion, you're going to have demand destruction at that point. So you have double-edged swords with these tariff schemes. Do I think they're going to be as bad as Trump says? I think they're going to be 15 to 30% across the board, depending on the country. I don't think 10% is going to do it. Right? I think it's going to be over 15%.
So you say the tax base is eroded. What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, private jobs have trended down. Government jobs have trended down. Labor participation rate is slightly ticked down. I don't see this manufacturing and service sector rejuvenance that was part of the first term of Trump. I mean, there's many reasons for it. To be honest with you, I think it's a continuation of the COVID issues when they stopped the global economy. You can't just turn a switch on and expect everything to just keep on going. I mean, there's been a lot of breaks in the system, and it's still reverberating throughout the whole global economy at the moment. And right now, the United States is sputtering. I know the data looks like it's not, but I mean, look around. I mean, there's people not in good. For 30% of America, it's great. They're wealthy, making money, hand over fist. For the bottom 70%, it's not great. And you're gonna see that more in the coming year, especially if inflation ticks up again.
But the bottom 70% has, on some level, kind of gotten used to that, right? Aside from the 20 and 21 where money was free, the bottom 70% has had struggles for a long time. This
I
isn't like a
understand that,
last
but
6 months thing.
politically, you can't just keep them suppressed for that long without having some kind of issues, right? Politically, look what happened. You get Obama, and then you get Trump, and then you
Yeah.
get Biden, and then you get Trump again. I mean, the political pendulum swings wildly because the bottom 70% are getting screwed left, right, and center.
Yeah.
So unless you're going to have a party stabilize it, you're going to get these wild swings. Who knows? Maybe AOC is the next president, right?
So, okay. So how do you fix that? You're president today.
You get money. If you, I don't even know how you fix it. There's so many structural problems in the market and the economy that I don't even unless you get in there with a crack team to cut down on debt and whatnot. I don't know. I mean, that's not a question that I can just sit there and answer right now, right? I
When you
don't think
say cut down on debt, what kind of debt?
the government has so much debt. I mean, the issuance and the treasury issuance and short-term bills
Right.
really screwed America. I mean, Janet Yellen really put the U.S. government in a bad spot. But now Bessent is doing the same thing because crackheads do crackhead things. They're drunk on the money that's coming in
Yeah.
for the top 30%. I mean, look at the tech names. Nvidia is worth more than Japan. You know,
It is
it's
ridiculous. I mean,
it's a ridiculous notion.
and we're at a point, Albert, where it's hard to bet in against those things.
You
Bitcoin, Nvidia,
can't.
all this
You
stuff.
cannot bet against
How
tech
do you
right
bet
now.
against them?
No, you can't bet against them. Like I have puts on the overall ES, right? But I balance it out with Nvidia and some of the other big Mag 7 names because it's either one or the other. Like either
Yeah.
they pump Mag 7 to keep the market and the bubble going,
Right.
or they let it crash and reset. So it's not it's not that complex if you really look at it. I mean, even the names, like normally I would play like Mosaic and Cleveland Cliffs and Titan Tire and all these other these real economy names and whatnot have gone nowhere.
Right.
They're close to COVID lows.
Right. So, a couple of years ago, we were talking about how the economy was likely going to be crashed in spring of 23, and it didn't really happen. And then it was going to be crashed in spring, or no, sorry, spring of 24. It didn't really happen. So they could get a rescue package out, right? And then there was I think we said it would be crashed in spring of 25, or at least talked about that so they could get a rescue package out. It didn't happen. Do you think they're kind
Oh,
of
we
that
did.
is still
It got down to 4,800.
in May? Yeah.
Yeah, it
Okay.
did. It did. I mean, they were going to do it. You know, they're just they can't politically take the blowback is the problem here. Yeah,
Right.
they can't take it.
Well, I think they probably chickened out because the tariffs were happening at the same time as the crash was happening, right? So they had to support it so the tariffs didn't look bad. So do you think that after this, say, August deadline or whatever, they may let something bad go forward so that they can come out with a rescue package or whatever going to Christmas so that people have money in their pockets and all this other stuff?
At this point, like I can't say things are gonna the crash is gonna happen, right? I mean, they could back test at like 5,200, which I think they'll probably end up doing, right? Just to give itself more juice to go up. And
Hmm.
that's what they do. I mean, they crash tech 5, 10, 15%, and then they relaunch it 30% up and drags
Yeah.
the market up with it.
Yeah, I mean, all this stuff about the melt up and everything else that we see, I mean, that's really just sentiment, right? There's really nothing that's driving that aside from the belief that it should go up, right? I mean, we're not seeing corporate profits expand
No.
dramatically. We're just seeing valuations expand.
Yeah, that's it. That's my whole point. It's a ridiculous notion to have this market sitting at 6,400 or 7,000 or 7,500 when it's only seven stocks. I mean, tech right now is 35% of the entire market.
Yep.
35% for
Yeah.
seven stocks. That's not healthy in
No,
any which way.
it's not
So,
at all. It's not at all. Interesting. Okay. So just getting back to trade, which is how we started this out. Um, how do you think the trade thing, let's say take Japan or take the EU. How does that work out? How does the EU discussion work out over the next month from your perspective?
well, it's not just the EU. I want to look at Mexico, Canada first.
Okay. Yep.
Most of those stuff, 95% of the stuff that's in those trade tariff disputes are already covered by USMCA, so they're
Yeah.
exempt from the tariff stuff. So
But
there's
Carney's
really,
the gift that keeps on giving, right? Like he just
yeah,
keeps opening his mouth and every American just rolls their eyes, or most
yes.
Americans, sorry, roll their eyes.
So the Mexican and Canadian, like rhetoric and is a little bit offside, and they know it, right? Because none of this stuff
Scheinbaum's
is.
not saying that much, is she?
Was that? Well,
Scheinbaum's
I mean, is she
she's
saying not
playing
right
this pretty
now?
smart, actually, I think.
Yeah, not right now. She's not. She did before, and privately she does. But realistically, it's the lower level people talking about tariffs and
Yep.
whatnot politically, and the liberal government in Ottawa that really are more vocal.
Yep.
It's nonsense. None of that stuff is going to get tariffed, right? And when it
Yep.
comes to the Europeans, they should be shaking in their boots,
They
right?
should be.
Because they should be shaking in their boots because 30% tariff is their entire luxury market, which is the only thing driving that country, that
And
continent,
tourism.
and tourism, right?
But we
Um,
have the dollar, the DX at 93, and that kind of kills European tourism, right?
yeah, pretty
If we get
much.
there. Yep.
Yeah, anytime the dollar starts 20% devaluation, yeah, no one's going to go to Venice. You know
Yep.
what I mean?
Yep.
But the luxury market, I love the luxury market in Europe. Bulgari and LMVH and
Yep.
Brunello Cucinelli. I think they've been selling things like hotcakes for the past few years. But a 30% tax is not good,
Not good
right?
at all.
Yeah, not good at all. And the Europeans already shot themselves in the foot for years. They can't afford to miscalculate things at the moment and not play ball with Trump. I don't know what Trump wants from the Europeans, but I mean, NATO spending is one thing, but that's kind of silly for tariff. Just kind of silly, right? Um, Japan, Japan plays ball with the U.S., so they'll come to a strategic deal for both sides at some point. And then it's always to talk about what the Chinese and the U.S.
Yeah.
do for trade, whatever. You know
It's
what I mean?
good. The US China one is going to be ongoing. I don't think we're
Oh,
going to see a
years.
final deal for US China. It's going to be
No.
ongoing. There are going to be things that are talked about and never implemented. I think you're right about Japan. Japan is going to protest a lot, but eventually they're going to do
At,
something.
at, at this point, if you're China, it's like, okay, we're going to be going into January of 2026. How long do we have of Trump? can we last? Can we outlast them? I would say yeah. I mean, at this, what does it matter if China has another year of 50% tariffs? What does it matter for them? You know, they're already in a bad spot to begin with,
Well, yeah, that's the
right?
question is can they last in that bad spot for another 18 to 24 months?
That's
I'm
the
not sure if
question.
they can.
Well, that's a debate we can probably have or
Yep.
write about, right?
Yep.
But from their perspective, if I was a Chinese, I would be like, well, January 2026, you midterms, they're not really going to do stuff in midterms because it'll affect Trump. So you're really looking at like a 12-month hiatus, and then you're looking at 2027. Can I outlast this guy for all of 2027? And I would say probably. I mean, honestly, like for 1 year, maybe you can outlast Trump, and
I mean,
then
if you know modern Chinese history in the early 60s and other times, I mean, they've put up with a lot of stuff. They've been very resilient. So if the leadership pushes them in that direction, I think you may not be wrong. I'm not going to say you're right, but you may
I'm
not
just
be
saying,
wrong.
yeah, yeah. I'm just saying, like, for midterms, Trump has to really cool down the tariff rhetoric, right? Because it's
I
going to
think
affect,
so.
yeah, it's
Okay.
going to affect the GOP, right? You don't want 500% tariffs on Chinese products, and all of a sudden 70% of America, which is like 90% of the GOP base, getting shafted on
Sure.
inflationary problems. So you
Yep.
definitely don't want that happening. The Chinese know this; they're not stupid, right? So
No,
you
they're not.
really have
No.
all of 2027 to deal with. And can they
Yep.
last? It's questionable. I don't know. I don't know how bad it gets
Yep.
there, but we'll talk about it, I'm sure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. Thanks for your time, Albert. Thanks for
Mhm.
everyone who's watching. Please like, subscribe, all that stuff. Look at the link below to come in and read our articles, and we will see you next week. Thanks, Albert.
Thanks, Tony.